This is Tayler Saucedo with the Toronto Blue Jays, and you are watching the Walk Off podcast.
So thrilled to be joined by today's guest, pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays, Tayler Saucedo. Welcome to the Walk Off, man. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, buddy, what a wild last few weeks for you, eh? Like, to start with, congrats on going to the show, my man. Unreal.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been crazy to say the least.
Yeah, well, we started messaging together like 3, 4 weeks ago before you got the call up. My intro for you was going to be completely different. A lot of thunder bison noise, right? And here we are. Boy, sounds pretty good saying Toronto Blue Jays pitcher.
Yes, it does. It sounds really nice.
How did they let you know? What was that day you got called up like?
Well, that whole day was just kind of crazy because so the day before I got the call, I did some needling, and so like I was like kind of sore a little bit, and so just like the next day, like 2 days later, they were super just like on me about my health and my arm and everything. And I'm like, everybody was like, "Are you okay?" Like I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. I don't know really where this is coming from." And like the
You guys have
trainer,
never been this concerned before.
yeah, I'm like, they've never showed this much interest. And the trainer comes and sits down. He's like, "I need to know, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Caleb, yes, like I'm perfectly fine." He was like, all right. And then we go into the game, and Kirby Sneed was pitching. He's a good friend of mine. And I always go down to the dugout to watch him. So I'm in the dugout, and I'm just like watching him. And Jeff Ware, the pitching coach, comes up, and he was like, he goes, "Hey, I just want to know, like, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yes. Why are you guys so concerned?" And he was like, "Okay." He goes, "Hey, uh, he's like, do you think you could go back to back?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like I've never done it before, but like I think I could do it." He was like, "Okay." He's like, "What hotel are you staying at again?" And I'm like, "What are these questions?" And I'm like, "The Courtyard." And he was like, "Okay, yeah. All right, sounds good." Walked away. And so we go in, and I'm like sitting there, just kind of sitting down, talking with the guys. And I'm like, "All right, like I'm going to go eat." So I go eat, and
Were you suspecting anything at this point, or you were still just like, what is going on?
yeah, I was kind of like that. Those were weird questions. We just heard that Zach Logue was coming up, but like that was a starter. So I'm not thinking they're gonna bring in, call up a reliever or anything. So I was like a little suspicious, but I was like 20 minutes have gone by since the end of the game, and I'm about to like eat a burrito, and the coach at the time was Corey Hart because Casey Kendall was gone. And he was like, "Hey, can you come in here real quick?" And at that moment, I was like, "What am I getting called in the office for?" And they're all sitting there. All the coaches are sitting in there, like standing up, and they're like kind of all have a grin on their face. And so, like, I just start grinning. And the coach is like, "Hey, man," he was like, we're getting kind of sick and tired of you down here. You're bothering a lot of people. So we're just going to go ahead and send you on to Fenway." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "Stop." And so then they told me that, and I kind of like broke down a little bit. And then I opened up the door to walk outside, and everybody's like waiting right there. And Forrest Wall was the first
Wow.
one, and he was like, "What?" And then everybody just started like dogpiling me, like beers flying, everything, and yeah, it was crazy.
That is unbelievable, man. What a way to find out. I can't even imagine, too, because you get called up and then you didn't pitch for a week. Like, was the anticipation for that finally being called out of the bullpen, like, was that tough to deal with? Like, it must have felt like an eternity.
Yeah, and like just it did feel like it was 2 months long. Like I was just waiting, like it would never happen. But like honestly, I kind of liked it the way that it worked out because obviously, when you go in and you're making your debut, you're obviously going to be nervous, you're going to be excited, your heart's going to be pounding. But like having those 5 days, like it kind of gave me rid of like the nervousness and more just like, all right, I just want to get this over with, and I just want to go and show that I can do it. And so, I think it
Kind of
all
let you
worked out.
settle in with the guys, eh?
Yeah. So we're all worked out for the best.
So many firsts, dude. Like that's what's so crazy about this story is like, and you just turned 28 too, so like Adam and I were talking before we hit record here and you joined us. Just like what a battle it is to stick with it till you're 28. Like a lot of guys would have already given up, man. Something to be said there.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually kind of crazy. Not a lot of people know this. During the pandemic and everything leading into this season, I had a talk with the Blue Jays, and they told me some things, and like my realistic shot as to get to the big leagues wasn't great.
Yeah.
So I actually was like, you know what? I think it's time that I focus on the next career of my life, the next phase of my life. And so I texted some of the guys. I told my parents I was actually done with baseball.
Wow.
Yeah, I was done, but I talked to one person, and he knows. It was Sean Taunt, old coach of mine, and I told him because he was opening up his facility for me to throw at, and I told him, I was like, hey, thank you for working with me and helping me out, but I'm done. And he texted me back, and he was like, hold on, I want to talk about this. I'll call you tomorrow. So I was like, okay. Calls me tomorrow, calls me the next day. And he was just like, look, man, I know who you are. You have to fill out your contract. You're going to go down the road 10 years. And you're like, man, like, I really regret calling it early. He goes, just fulfill the contract. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You played 7 years of professional baseball. Like, not many people can do that, but just see it through. I think you have a lot left in you. And I was like, and we went over some few things, like personal things. And he was like, just do this. Like, and he's like, you owe me at least. Like, I want to be there for a game. And so I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. Like, just because we had that moment together, and he's never shared some of those things. So I was like, all right, I'll do it. And here we are.
That is unbelievable, wow. Taylor. I can't even get over that you were that close to hanging it up.
Yeah, it was literally. If I didn't text him, I'm probably in class right now somewhere.
You owe that guy a lunch or something, hey?
Now I called him that day when I got the call. Like, I called him and I was like, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? And he was like, are you joking me? Like, I didn't even get into what I was doing. Like,
he just knew.
I was like, do you want to go watch a game at Fenway tomorrow? And he was like, no way. Like, just losing it. So,
oh, that's amazing, dude. So in the last 3 weeks, you've had your MLB debut, your first major league strikeout, your first high leverage runners in scoring position situation as a big leaguer. And I know that high leverage situation maybe didn't go exactly like you wanted, but man, how big is it acquiring these experiences and these firsts, right? Like, you're a guy who's come up through the system. You just talked about it, 7 years as a pro, or you're approaching it anyways. You've been promoted before. Getting these firsts out of the way, does it kind of help you become comfortable and confident at a new level?
Yeah, 100%. And like, you go out there and you go and face, and you get that first outing out of the way, that helps, and it goes well. Obviously, that helps. That builds up the confidence. And then you go out for your second one, and and you do well, and then you run into your first sort of struggle. And so I would say 2 out of 3, in my first big league career is pretty good.
Yeah,
and,
man.
And stuff like that's gonna happen, but it's just the trick with baseball is to have that short-term memory, whether it's good or bad. And so just having that and going out there, and now I got it all out of the way, right? I had success, I failed, and so just having all of these experiences now, it's good because it sets you on the right path. Now it's like, okay, I got it out of the way. I know what went wrong, and so, it's been good.
That's great, man. I know you kind of mentioned how excited the Bison's teammates were for you. You've played with a lot of these guys at some point in the system too here with the Jays. Like, did you have a certain comfort level going into that clubhouse, and were the guys pretty excited for you there too?
Yeah, it was a lot of the guys, like majority of these guys I played with, like Vladdy, Bo, Romano, and so on, Kevin, and so you name it. And like I hang out with these guys and I text them all the time. And so just like now being back and like being with them, like one of my also good friends is Patrick Murphy, and you know, we were sitting in Baltimore and we were like, did you think that we would be in Camden Yards, like sitting here together? Like, there's no way I would have thought that. Like, there's just no way. And so, you know, just having these guys here and like being with them, it's definitely has made the transition pretty easy.
It's so cool to see how excited these guys are for you. It's funny, Adam, actually, you can go ahead and take over here. Yeah.
I was just, you have such a great like reputation throughout the whole organization. I was playing MLB The Show with Joey Murray yesterday, and I just asked him, you know, kind of what his thoughts were on you getting the call up, and everybody's so excited from top to bottom about it. Like, you know, just you're such a good guy and you have such a great reputation. So again, just congrats to you on being likable and finally getting it.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
great.
Thank you.
Do road trips even have the same feel now that you're not hopping on a bus for hours at a time? I'm sure it's tough to deal with this transition to flying places.
The flight, yeah, it's really tough. You know, anything you want on the flight, it's just, you know, I'll never be able to fly commercial again.
Yeah, it bumps you up to a new level. Yeah.
Yeah, it just ruins the whole experience for me now. So, but no, yeah, the travel's been awesome. Like obviously, the hotels have been insane, and so just the whole experience, you know, it's been everything that you can imagine it to be. And so I'm very thankful for
A
it.
little bit more posh being a big leaguer than being in AAA, eh?
Yeah, like sometimes the hotels are too nice. I'm just like, I like simple things, you know. I'm like, I don't know how to turn on the shower. They have 4 different buttons. I'm like, can I just get just like a lever, please, or something?
You're like, this is throwing me out of my routine.
Yeah, yeah. So it's been awesome.
It's funny, man. And you did sort of touch on it here, just even your story about when the pandemic hit. And I know I mentioned what a wild few weeks, but we can just go as far as to say what a wild 18 months it's been. Pandemic hits, the shutdown, right? Everything ends. And eventually they did call off the whole minor league season. Take us through the first few months of waiting, though, and the uncertainty. And I know even just the fact that you were wrestling with whether you were even going to continue to play baseball. And then once you found out what was going on, what did you do to continue to develop? Because you obviously did something right. I mean, my goodness, dude, you're a big leaguer.
I like from the start of it, obviously, you know, when the whole news happened, like we broke camp, and I knew that Seattle was going to be pretty locked down for the most part. And um, right before, I was already living with Nate Pearson at the time.
Right, we've heard of him.
For like spring training. And so he was like, just stay with me, and we'll just train together. And so I was like, are you sure? And he was like, yeah. And so 5 months later, we were living together. And so, but that was good. So I had that, and we just kind of like threw every once in a while. And like anytime there was like news, we're like, all right, we're going back. We start to ramp up. And but then obviously I got left off that taxi squad, the 60-man taxi squad, and I ended up going home. And you know, I've been pretty open about it, like on my social media, and so I have no problem talking about it. But yeah, I went through this whole depression and anxiety of like what's next, and that's where the phone call came in. It just wasn't feeling the same about baseball. I'm like, you know, not having a certain future where every day they're like, oh, we don't know. It was tough. And like the only thing, I took off September to throw. And then I had the phone call where like, hey, we want you to be ready. Like, you know, you need to come into camp, like really showing something. So I was like, okay. And I went every day, and I literally just threw into a fence, into a target. Yeah. And I just worked with pitches on my own. So everything that I have learned was all on my own. There was no trainer, no nothing. And so I just knew that like I had to increase spin. I had to gain velo. I had to do all these things. I had to completely change who I was as a pitcher. You know, I didn't want to be labeled as just a sinker baller. Like I knew that I had really good stuff. I just wasn't putting it together. And so I just went in there and I bought like this like little trainer, target trainer thing. And I just threw into that and worked on a changeup because I knew if I had a changeup, it would be the difference between me getting righties out. And and so I just found a changeup that actually Bushman showed me when I was backing up in big league camp. Just one day, he was like, "Hey, you should throw your changeup like this because you know you and Luis Castillo throw very similar." So I worked on that and worked on my slider and worked on my curveball and you know just making it more sharp and you know having that depth and that vertical break, all that stuff, and just that every
you
day
like revamped your whole.
revamped who I was. I didn't want to just be a sinker baller opener kind of guy. I was like, I can be a guy 1 inning, 2 innings, and come in here and I can strike people out. Like I know I can.
Yeah.
And so that whole I just reshaped who I was. And all of a sudden now I was 90 to 92, and now I'm 94 to 96. Like I completely just changed. And like where that velo came from, I don't know. Like I haven't really done much different other than like just working on pitches, and then the velo came with it. And like I guess just like cleaning up my mechanics, like just simple things have changed all of that, and here we are. So
Man, that is incredible. It's so I don't know, I'm kind of startled at how much I relate to what you're saying because both Adam and I are comedians, right? And like we were literally on tour on the road together when the pandemic hit and everything shut down. And it was such a weird month or two where it's just like, is everything's just going to fire back up and you can go back to working, or should I be looking for a different profession? Obviously, like it's just.
I remember being in the car with Scott, and it was like, but after every show, like because we could kind of continued our tour as we were, you know, as the world was shutting down. Yeah. And I just remember Scott, like every day we'd be driving from like Regina to Winnipeg, and he'd be like, I just got an email, another gig just got canceled or whatever, right? And he's like,
you're watching the fallout as it, you know.
Yeah, he's like, there goes my May. I've got nothing booked now until whatever. And he's like, at least June is good. And I'm like, I don't know if June's gonna be good, man. And he's like, no, June's good. And it's like, So yeah,
it was crazy. Pandemic, nobody could have imagined, you know, that whole, you know.
I mean, the pandemic was tough on everyone, but I mean, there were just certain industries, you know, like sports and entertainment, like, whew.
Yeah.
And for guys like in the minor leagues to lose that coaching in that year of playing, it was you know horrible. And then you cut half the minor leaguers because they cut a lot of teams, and it's like a lot of guys lost jobs by default, not because they couldn't do it, just by default. Like you know they got rid of a lot of lower level guys, and that sucks. Like you don't know, like that could have been me, you know, that could have been me at like whatever if I was starting my career at that time. And it just sucks, you know, not to have all that year, you know, and then to be cut and let go like that. It was brutal. It was tough to watch.
I mean, even this reconfiguration, and you touched on it, right? That all these professional organizations lost an affiliate or two.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, out of 30 teams, like you're talking a lot of ball players.
Yeah. And it's tough, you know, now those guys, you know, they have a tougher route where they have to go to like indie ball, and like you're going to find out like how much you love this game. And that's strictly what it is. It's like you go through the minor leagues, and that's tough enough. And then to be let go because of a pandemic, something you cannot control.
Yeah.
That's even harder. I couldn't imagine for a lot of those guys what that's like. And so, you know, to go through that, all of us together, you know, we're all in it together because a lot of us lost our jobs, you know, as a whole in the universe. And so it's just, it's tough, but it's good to see that, you know, we're getting back on the right track.
Agreed, man. There's finally, hopefully, a light at the end of the tunnel, knock on wood and all that good stuff. Yeah. So, and this kind of touches on the whole pandemic thing too. I know, you know, you go from the Buffalo Bison, who are the Thunder Bison this year, right? You're playing in Trenton, which Thunder Bison is a wicked name, by the way.
Yeah, I love it.
But then you get the call up, you head to Buffalo to play for the Toronto Blue Jays, who are also displaced. The Vancouver Canadians are playing in Oregon. Like, what has it been like as an organization for nobody to have a home field?
It's tough. You don't really notice it like when you're in Trenton because it's not that bad. I mean, it is what it is, and like
Mhm.
it helps because that clubhouse is amazing. Like
You're like, we
everybody in
actually
that,
upgraded. Yeah.
yeah, everybody in that clubhouse is awesome, and so like when you have guys like that, it makes it better. But here, you definitely notice it, and you definitely notice it when you're playing like the Yankees, for an example. When I made my debut, it was an away game, you know,
Yeah.
and you have literally 99% Yankee fans because you're in New York, and you're like, we're at home, like, and then they're cheering when we strike out, they're cheering when we give up a homer, like we're supposed to be at home, and so like that sucks, that feeling sucks, and I think like once Toronto lets us back in, if that happens at some point, I think having Toronto behind you and having all of that, it's going to make a huge difference. And you know, because especially when you're in those like late innings and you don't have the crowd on your side,
Yeah.
that plays a huge part into it. And I'm from Seattle, where you know the Seahawks were known to be loud, and you
Yeah.
have that energy and you feed off of it. Um, I just think that you know playing on the road all the time and not playing in your home stadium definitely plays a part into like kind of what's going on. So I think like once you get back to Toronto, I think that energy is going to pick up, and I think they're going to see this team really take off.
Even the border isolation rules are going to the wayside as of July 6th, man. And I know that I've got tickets to the Jays Seattle series there in August. And buddy, it is incredible. I can't wait for you to experience a game in Seattle where it's all Blue Jays fans. It just gets out of
Yes,
hand, man.
it's I've been to them as a kid. It's like why, like how, like you try and go like across the street to get dinner or something, and it's just swarm of Blue Jays, and it's like, where did you guys come from? Like how did you people? It's like the whole country's here. So yeah, that's something I really hope that I'm able to experience, and that's going to be a special one for me, especially returning
Yeah.
home, and so that would be cool.
Yeah, it will be. Um, Seattle's home, but you're born in Hawaii, correct?
Yes, I was born in Hawaii, lived there for about a couple of years, and then I moved to Japan, and
Oh,
then
wow.
moved back to Seattle.
So what age were you when you started playing baseball, and where were you?
Like right away, I started playing when I was like 4, 5, and that was in Japan.
You
So
started playing in Japan.
yeah,
That's
for the
very
Red Sox,
cool.
which is crazy. I was the Red Sox, and then I make my debut in Fenway. So
I just love that you can be like, yeah, you're 28 and you're like, I started playing baseball like 24 years ago in Japan. Just so
yeah, it's crazy.
that's very cool. What were your parents doing that brought you over to Japan?
My mom ended up marrying someone in the Navy, and so that's just kind of where
Right.
we were stationed at the time. And so that we lived there, and I remember bits and pieces. Like I remember playing baseball and stuff like that. But like we did camping a lot when we were there. But other than that, not a whole lot.
Okay, so we're gonna take a drastic right turn here. Um, Alek Manoah is serving a suspension right now for hitting Franco of the Baltimore Orioles. Obviously, you or I will never know if he actually intentionally hit him. MLB has determined intent and said that he did, and it definitely caused a stir on the field. Have you ever been in a situation like that? Like, have you ever been the guy on the mound to hit somebody and then the bench is clear?
No, but I have been on the mounds and benches have cleared back in 2016 when I was in Lansing. This guy hit his third homer of the day. I guess he pimped it. I didn't see it, and he rounds the bases, and I guess our catcher at the time didn't let him cross. And so then all of a sudden, I was turned the other way, and all of a sudden I just see all of the infielders and outfielders running in, and I'm like, what's going on? And I turn around, and they're going at it, and so like we got into it. That was actually a pretty intense. Punches were thrown, people
Wow.
got hit. Yeah, and Some
Did
people
you
got
keep
injured.
pitching after that?
Yeah, I had to come in and
What
I
was
just
that like to like your adrenaline must have been going insane.
yeah, you have to calm it down and like obviously like you want to like retaliate, but then you can't because then you put somebody else in jeopardy and it's like, oh, and it's like you have to focus in on we're getting blown out. Like it's like
Right.
14-2, I remember, and it's like, it was tough, but
So
so
you had turned around and all of a sudden you see a bunch of guys running out of the bullpen, eh?
yeah, well, I
Have
just
you ever
saw
been have you ever been one of the guys from the bullpen charging in?
uh yes, that's actually pretty funny story about that. So right before I got called up, we had a situation down in Trenton, and I'm all about my teammates. I'm ride or die.
Yeah.
And I saw it was Christian Cologne. I saw like they were arguing. I saw their dugout move, and I saw like kind of them going. And so I just took off from the bullpen, and like kind of things like right when I got there, kind of things like settled down. And I looked around, I looked behind, and the whole bullpen's still in the bullpen. Nobody moved.
You ran out
Nobody
on
moved.
your
I was the
own.
only one. I was like, wait, did I jump the gun here? Like, what happened? Like after the game, like CC was like, only guy that I saw come was Tayler, and so he was like, that's how I know that's my guy. And I was like, I'm there. And then this happened, right? We had the thing in Baltimore. I was like, yes, it's happening. So I ran out there, like Murph afterwards. He goes, you got one. You happy?
You got one.
Like, I was, so it was fun.
Does it feel as awesome running in as it looks?
It's exhausting. It's not, you're not making the run from Trenton to home. You're making the run from all the way to the outfield. And
Yeah.
by the time you get there, you ran a mile, and then all of a sudden it's over, and then you have to walk back and talk to the guys. Like, what are you guys doing later? They're like, oh, no, whatever. Like, we just hated each other on the run in, and then on the run back, all good. So
That's hilarious.
Oh, I love that. So, Taylor, Pete Walker is widely known as one of the best pitching coaches in baseball. And I know we had Tim Meza on the show in April, and he kind of said that the thing about Pete is that he has this great way of connecting with every single guy, and that he tends to have this ability to pinpoint what your positive points are and kind of make you pitch within your game. Have you had a chance to spend much time with Pete, and how important is a good pitching coach?
it's definitely very important. Sorry about that.
No.
It's definitely very important, just to have a connection and have like the conversations with a good pitching coach, because they can, like, when they are good, they can articulate it in a way that you understand, that you go out and execute exactly what he was talking about. And obviously I haven't had a lot of time with Pete, obviously not being in a big league camp, not doing all that stuff. He's just finding out who I am, and Charlie is actually finding out not a lot. They don't know a lot about me, and so for me to come down here and then have Pete say a lot of the things that he's saying, it's been really good transition, and he's basically just told me, like, don't change. Like, you're a guy that's gonna attack, you do that. Sometimes it's gonna happen. Like, for example, what happened the other night in Baltimore. Like, I came at a guy, I got my ground ball. It didn't, 2 inches to the left, Bo gets the double play, and it is what it is. And then the changeup, where we went and watched video, and the night before it was a weekly foul ball, same pitch, same location, but the next night it went into the gap. And so stuff like that happens. And, having Pete tell me, he's like, you're a funky lefty that throws hard. You pound the zone, you don't walk a lot of guys that plays at this level. And so to hear him say all that, it builds the confidence back up. And he's like, you're going to get another opportunity. We put you in a tough situation. We wanted to see what happens. And, it just didn't work out.
Got the ground ball. Yeah. Like,
it was there. He goes, it's just, that doesn't mean that we're going to go away from you. You did exactly what you were supposed to. And so, it's just sometimes things don't work out. And so having Pete there and having him, give me that, all that information and saying that, it's been good.
Same sort of idea with catchers, right? They obviously can make a pitcher better. How nice was it to be called up and be able to pitch to Reese McGuire, a guy you're familiar with, a guy you've has caught you before? And is the chemistry between a pitcher and a catcher as big of a deal as it's made, or it is, eh?
Yeah, just well, one having Reese because we're actually from the same hometown. So like
Ah,
we grew up rival high schools, played against each other in high school, and then this off season, since he lived right down the road, we were just playing catch together, and he caught some of my lives and my bullpens, and so he knows what we've been working on. But having that catcher and having that relationship is 100% because then like, hey, I know this guy, he wants to throw this in this count, like, and then you can already have it gripped and you're flowing, everything's going. And so definitely having a good relationship with your catchers and being on the same page is very important because especially when coming up, you don't if a catcher doesn't know you, he might call a pitch that you don't feel comfortable with, but because you don't want to shake, you don't want to do that early on, it could mess everything up. And so just having Reese and obviously Riley here, and they know how I want to pitch,
yeah.
it helps.
Yeah, that's right. You've played a bunch with Riley Adams too.
Yeah.
Uh, when you look back on your career as a pro ball player, you're coming up on 7 years as it now. Over the last what is like the wildest, weirdest, or craziest experience you've had so far? Maybe not necessarily the most validating or exciting, but like just something that was just wild that happened.
Um, I can tell you I've had a lot of wild experiences. Probably the ones that I can talk about um, would probably be just like, I don't know, maybe back in 2018, starting a game at 1 o'clock in the morning. I think that was pretty wild. Um, that
Where was
was
that?
that was actually in Trenton, New Jersey.
Okay.
So, well, that was for the playoffs back when we Double A Eastern League when we won the championship. Our coach John Schneider at the time did
Yeah.
not want to let them have another day because it was the playoffs and we could have put them away. And so he was just determined to get that game in. And so like you're starting the game at 12:45 in the morning, and
Was
then
there
when you
anybody in the crowd?
no, and
Pandemic
so
baseball,
yeah,
pre-pandemic.
exactly, we were already prepared, uh, so doing that, and then ended up winning that game, and we're in the clubhouse at 3 or 4 in the morning, celebrating. I would say that one was probably the craziest experience. I would say another crazy experience would probably be we were just like 2016, 2017 maybe. We drove through pretty much like a tornado. We were in Kentucky. Um, I was the only one concerned. And I was wondering why nobody else cared, but I look over to my left and I'm like looking out the window and it is pitch dark. Like, I mean, dark. I've never
Yeah.
seen it this dark before. And I'm like, are you guys seeing this? They're like, it's a rain cloud. And I'm like, that's not a rain cloud. And then I was like, that is death. But
You're like, I live in Seattle. I know what a rain cloud looks like.
yeah, exactly. And so I'm like looking, and all of a sudden, it like you could see it like taking form, and I'm like, this is terrifying. Like, what is it? And then all of a sudden, I could not see like anything outside. Could not see anything outside. The wind is going crazy. We're driving at like 2 miles an hour. You see people pull over, and then all of a sudden, like, I mean, it was downpour rain, winds crazy, and then all of a sudden, just bam, done, light out, sun.
Wow.
I was like, what just happened? And the bus driver gets on. He goes, that was 100%. We just went through a tornado. I'm like, everybody just went right back to what they were doing, and I'm like, why does nobody care? Like,
You're like, I told you guys, and you
yeah,
still
I was
don't
like,
care.
I saw it coming the whole way, and nobody was just like, everybody's just right back to their movies. Like, I'm just like, are we just that numb to like in the minor leagues? Like, we just don't care anymore. So
That's great.
That's great, man. I love it. Thanks for sharing. So like I mentioned, Adam and I are comedians, and when I'm not thinking comedy, I'm like nerding out on baseball. So when you're not doing baseball, what do you kind of nerd out on or do? Are you a golfer, a gamer? What do you do?
Definitely a gamer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely play a lot of games. And I'm definitely a nerd when it comes to comics. So I like my Marvel, I like my DC. I read the comics. So yeah, those are definitely kind of my things. So
Nice. All right, my man. We're gonna take a little bit of a exit from baseball here. I'm gonna throw it over to Adam. He's gonna do what we call foul territory. So he's got some different style questions here for you, and take it away, Adam.
All right. Wow. Pressure's on. Let's start with all the MVP talk that's going on right now between Vladdy and Otani. I'm not gonna ask a question that I know the answer to. Okay, I'm not gonna ask your opinion on who you think deserves it or who's having the better season. Obviously, as a Blue Jay, we know the answer. What I do want to know though is like, as a pitcher, scale of 1 to 10, how wild is it what Otani is doing as a hitter?
10.
Yeah.
10. No doubt.
And follow up to that, when was the last time that you really hit? Like, how old were you?
Uh, I became a pitcher only like instantly. I would say probably my junior year of high school.
Okay.
Yeah,
So like 16, 17 years old kind of thing, eh?
yeah, yeah, like 16.
All right. What is your favorite game day snack? Are you a sunflower seeds guy or do you have like a hot dog in the bullpen? What's your go-to?
Um, I don't really have a pregame snack. Like if I do eat something, it's gonna be like veggie straws.
That's
Okay.
so unexciting.
Yeah.
Everybody's
So,
going to wing night and you're like, celery sticks for me, please.
so yeah, that's kind of like I mean those veggie straws chips are good. So
Yeah.
All right.
I love them. So yeah, that's pretty much what I eat before.
Fair enough. Okay. You mentioned being a gamer. What are some of the games you play?
So like I play like a lot of Warzone, Apex Legends, Madden when it comes out. Um, Honestly, I don't play a lot of the show. It's just too much baseball at
Yeah.
once. Um,
No, I get
so yeah,
that.
those are pretty much my main core games.
All right. Well, when Madden comes out, you and me, we're gonna have to get together and have a match. All right.
All right, perfect.
Sticking with the gaming though, and going back to snacks, do you have a snack of choice when you're gaming? I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, what
Usually
I'm
just candy.
candy." Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep the
Yeah,
fingers
like,
clean, right?
yeah, like Skittles, like nothing too crazy.
Yeah, you don't want
Yeah.
that cheese dust on the controllers for sure.
Exactly.
This is a trick that I have learned is if you're going to eat chips while you're gaming, chopsticks is the way to go.
Chopsticks.
Yeah.
Really?
Specifically, trainer chopsticks, like for kids.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah.
And they're like
Yeah.
spring
I'm
loaded
all
on a
about
hinge. So
that.
it's easy. You just pick it up, you keep your fingers clean. Anyways, that's a tip that you could take back to the clubhouse.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
I'm definitely going to be using that. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. All right. Okay, so you mentioned, you know, towards last year and stuff, as you were kind of reconsidering your whole status in the game of baseball, and you had to kind of revamp your identity as a pitcher. You added the changeup to your repertoire. Did you ever consider like maybe I should just play around with a knuckleball and see if I can make that work, or maybe dropping down to be a sidearm pitcher?
So I don't know. Obviously, I don't know how much it shows during when you're warming up, but I actually do drop down pretty low in my last pitch. Just for some reason, I've always done it. And I steer clear of the knuckleball. I cannot throw a knuckleball. Tried.
Yeah.
And so if my career ever comes to that, we have some problems. But
We have some problems.
All right, I won't
Uh,
keep an eye out for the knuckleball from you then.
yeah, steer clear of the knuckleball, won't be happening. But no, I've thought about, I can pitch from pretty low, and so, but I know that it's not where I want to be right now. So I
Yeah.
just every now and then you'll see me. I'll throw it in during a game. I'll drop down, but other than that, just working on keeping my same arm slot.
No, that's great. If you weren't playing ball, you mentioned you consider being in school. What would you be going to school for?
I went to school for in like behavioral science, but I don't know if I would want to change that. It was just kind of something at the time, like, when I was in school, just kind of like the easier route. So, but I don't know. I've never really thought about it. School is just something that I have struggled with, but so I don't know. That was just like something that I was talking about. Like maybe I'll go back to school, or maybe I'll just work. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't really know what I would do right now if I was to actually go back to school. I don't know what I would go for.
You know
That
what?
would
You don't have
definitely.
to worry about that
Yeah,
anytime
you don't
soon.
have to worry about it now, buddy.
I was gonna say that's something that I'll think about. If we do get to that road. But for now, yeah, I don't know what I would go into.
Sounds good. All right. Just a couple more here. If you could recommend one TV show or movie that maybe people aren't familiar with, like don't mention Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah.
But if
Just
you
give
had
yourself.
if you had an off the radar piece of media content that you could recommend to someone, what would it be?
That's a good one. Shows, I don't know. Like right now, like I would highly suggest watching Loki.
Loki. All right. Yeah, there you go.
On Disney Plus. That's what I'm watching right now. It's actually really good. So I think that would be my suggestion. It's not really off the radar, but also not everybody's
That's
cup
true.
of tea.
Yeah.
But I think overall it's a pretty good show.
All right. Give it a chance. Maybe it's
So
got someone
as a Marvel nerd, it holds up.
Yes, 100%.
Awesome.
Even better than I would imagine.
That's great.
Oh, wicked.
Sorry, this was not planned to be asked here, but since you mentioned being a Marvel nerd and comics and stuff, do you have a favorite superhero and a super villain?
Yeah. I think my favorite superhero would probably be Deadpool.
Nice.
Nice. Me too.
And then he's not obviously in the Marvel universe. He's from DC, just to be correct.
Yes.
We all know him, but probably the Joker.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a great choice. Have you seen the Joaquin Phoenix Joker?
Yes.
And what did you think of that?
A different take for sure, but in the essence of who the Joker is, I mean, I think he absolutely nailed it.
Yeah.
So it was really good.
Love it. What do you look for in a villain?
Just how smart they are. Like,
Do you care about the origin story, or do you just want something?
Yeah, I do. Like, I like the background. I like figuring out how they got there,
Yeah.
even though it's not real. But I just like having that background story and seeing like how they turned so horrible, and why they want to hurt people. And so like, where did you go? Like, who wasn't there for you? And
Who broke your heart? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, I definitely like knowing the background stories and how they got there.
For
Is
sure.
Trevor Bauer the best villain in baseball?
Talk about a
Yes.
great origin story, right? Like he was on this sticky substance. He's like, you guys got to listen to me. And nobody listened. And now he's gone full
Exactly.
villain.
Yeah.
He's like,
He's just
fine.
completely-
Let's burn the city
He's attacking
down.
Everybody. Exactly. He's a menace to society is what you call it. Yeah, he's definitely the perfect villain.
Love it. All right. Last thing here. You mentioned the Seahawks. Are you a football fan at all?
Very big.
Very
football
big.
fan.
All right. So obviously Russell Wilson is a great quarterback. I'm sure you've got a jersey or two of his at home.
Yeah.
But Patrick Mahomes is a freak, right? We can all agree to that.
Yes, he's doing things that you shouldn't be doing on a football field, like that incomplete pass, like where he just turns around and he just chucks it, or the one that the guy dropped in the end zone in the Super Bowl where he's throwing it from inches from the ground. Like that's absurd.
Yeah,
Like
it's
you shouldn't
wild.
be doing
So he lost to Tom Brady in the Super Bowl this year. I mean, everybody wants to compare the two of them, and maybe Mahomes can one day overtake him as the greatest of all time. How much does that loss in the Super Bowl this year hurt his chances of surpassing Tom Brady as the GOAT one day?
that.
Do you think he can do it still?
Yeah, I think he can. I mean, he's still so young, and like that team is dangerous, and they're gonna compete for another Super Bowl again
Yeah.
this year. But I think if he continues doing what he's doing, I think he definitely has a chance. He may not get the Super Bowls, but if like all the other accolades, he's definitely, he could win a lot of MVPs. He could put up ridiculous numbers.
Totally.
Um, I remember him saying like the previous year he didn't even know how to read defenses until halfway through. So it's like you're doing stuff like that, and you don't even really know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, just raw instinct and talent. Hey?
Yeah. So I think he's going to be. I think he definitely has a chance.
All right. Well, once the baseball season wraps up and you have more time on your hands and the new Madden comes out, you and I'm a Steelers guy. So Steelers and Seahawks, you and I, grudge
Stole that
match.
Super Bowl. I'm in.
Sounds good, Taylor.
Honestly, Taylor, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us here, buddy. We really appreciate it. This has been a
Thank
great
you for
chat.
having me.
We do have a few listener questions here for you. Do you have a few more minutes to stick around?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so this first one is from Jamie in Ottawa, Ontario. He says, "Hey, Taylor, glad the boys got you on the show. Congrats on your call up to the Jays. Curious who you model yourself after. Is there a big league pitcher you see yourself in that you watch extra close?"
Not really. I would say I've always grown up watching King Felix. I always wanted to be like Felix Hernandez. I always wore number 34. It's been my number that I used throughout my career. I always wanted to be like him. But right now, currently, there's really nobody that I'm watching and being like, hey, I want to be like that. As cliche as it sounds, I just want to be who I am and be that guy. So
Awesome. Samantha in St. John, New Brunswick. So that's East Coast Canada. Taylor, welcome to the big leagues. Do you have a favorite food or dish or restaurant at opposing team's stadium or city that you look forward to visiting?
Well, I've only, my options are limited. I would say being in Baltimore, the pregame meal was Moe's.
Nice.
I thought that was pretty cool. So you definitely aren't getting that before the game in minor league. So I think just having that experience and having Moe's before the game, that was pretty cool.
Awesome. Melinda in Calgary, Alberta, so just above Montana, says, "Hey, Taylor, I actually saw you play a few years back in Dunedin. So cool you're up with the big team now. Do you personally have any game day superstitions or routines you follow? And what's the weirdest thing you've seen a teammate do to try and break a slump?"
No, I mean, the only thing that I really do is like, I'll do like contrast every day. So hot tub, cold. Superstitions though, no, not really. I'm not really crazy into that, but like I do feel like if I'm doing something, I have to do it every day. So I guess like, but nothing crazy where I'm like in my locker like with candles and everything and doing some voodoo. No, like I'm not too into that. I've just seen guys, and I'm sure you've seen the videos of it before, just like guys where they take their bats and they create like a campfire and then like put music and then everybody's like trying to warm up, like that kind of thing. That's pretty much been the main thing that I've seen guys try to do when they're in a slump.
Love it. Okay, your last question comes from Daryl in Vancouver. He says, "Hey, Taylor, what stood out to you about your time with the Canadians, and did you enjoy Vancouver?"
Oh, Vancouver was amazing. That I was actually talking about it with my family the other day about how just being in Vancouver was the best experience of like my life at that point. Like and just having that going to the field every day, knowing that the fans were going to be sold out. I mean, every game was sold out. Every game was loud. It was just that was a really fun experience.
Kind of a nice welcome to the pros type of thing, playing in front of
Yeah,
fans and stuff.
especially when you go from Bluefield, and then you go to Vancouver. So just having that, and you're like, the pro ball is the best, you know. And you quickly learn it's not as nice as Vancouver. And now Vancouver's a high A team. That's
Yeah.
insane. Good for them. But yeah, that Vancouver was awesome. It's a beautiful city. Like it's the best.
Awesome. Again, Tayler, thank you so much for taking the time, my man. Big congrats to you and all the best with the rest of the season.
Thank you for having me,
Yeah, good
guys.
luck.